So the newest HELLUVA BOSS episode released, and it was the longest episode to date, sitting at 23 minutes. In this video, I'm going to go over some of the important information we learned, and I'll detail the things I liked and disliked about the episode. At the end, I'll give a ranking and place it among the others. So we start the episode in the past with a flashback sequence. We are introduced to baby Stolas along with Mr. Butler. Stolas' design is adorable, and the voice actor does a wonderful job. Shortly after, we get a first look at Stolas' father, Paimon. His design is superb and really cements his role as one of the leaders of the Ars Goetia. His voice actor matches the character's design really well. We learn of how Stolas obtained his grimoire, with Paimon explaining how Stolas would be forced into an arranged marriage with Stella. Paimon shows an image of Stella choking some type of animal, and this really reiterates how evil Stella is. We see a circus scene where we are introduced to young Blitzo and young Fizzaroli. Paimon is present inside a mirror, and I noticed that he does the same clapping motion that Stolas does in episode 3. This also explains Stolas' love of circuses, since he takes Octavia to Lululand in episode 3. I don't mind the voice actors for Fizzaroli and Blitzo. I don't think they do as good a job as Stolas' voice actor though. We get introduced to Blitzo's father. After this, Blitzo and Stolas meet for the first time, and it's super cute. We also get a look at Blitzo's devious side, since he steals expensive items from Stolas' house. Blitzo and Stolas get some character development, with Blitzo saying how he wants to start a business in the future. We are then put 25 years into the future. We see a brief cameo of Octavia sleeping in the bed. We see Stella again, and like I said in my other review, Stella's voice actor is really talented. Stella's voice matches her character perfectly, and even though she's portrayed as a villain, her voice actor does such a great job at making her someone that you love to hate. We then see a ballroom scene featuring a variety of members of the Ars Goetia hierarchy. They all have unique designs with tons of detail poured into them, especially the two dog bodyguards. We see Blitzo and Stolas again, showing how they met prior to the events of the pilot. We almost get a sex scene, however the rest of it happens off screen. The next morning we see Blitzo fall out of the window like he did in the pilot, only this time we see what happens after. Stolas announces that he wants a divorce. Stolas then wakes up the day after season 1 episode 7. He's completely hungover and proceeds to sing a song. His song is called Stolas Sings, and it's really emotional. This is definitely my favourite song in the series so far. The lyrics are so hard hitting and it pulls on your heartstrings. It really cements Stolas as the most emotional character in the series that's went through a lot of hardship, and it's so sad to see how he was treated by Stella. Stolas' song ends with Stella berating him. Stolas announces that he wants a divorce, and we learn that Octavia is 17 years old. The episode ends with Stolas sighing and looking towards the camera. Overall, I really enjoyed this episode. Compared to other episodes in the series, this one was quite serious. The parts I liked the most was the wonderful animation, the cool flashback scenes, and Stolas' song. Stella is now definitely my favourite character in the show. I think she's the best villain, more so than Verosika, Stryker, the Cherubs, or the FBI. Paimon was also cool to see for the first time. We saw how bad him and Blitzo's father were at parenting. They're partly responsible for some of the personality traits that tarnish their sons' lives. One in particular is seeing Blitzo's dad manipulate Blitzo into stealing. As for the critiques, I feel like this episode should have been the season 1 finale. It was a bit weird that this episode was the beginning of a new season, since it feels like it should have been the finale, not a continuation. There's a number of confused people on Reddit asking what happened to the finale, so I'm definitely not alone in thinking this. I already made a video explaining why the finale was delayed, so I'll have that linked below. Octavia being revealed as 17 is nice to see, however I feel like it came a bit late. There's already tons of NSFW images of her. I briefly covered it in another video which will be linked below, but I think they should have cleared this up a while ago. Better late than never though. For a backstory episode, it's good to see the timeline of Stolas and Blitz's relationship. However, it feels like it created new questions instead of answers. The time skips help explain the holes between Stolas and Blitz's relationship. They introduce new characters like the dads and provide more context between Stolas and Stella's relationship. They also introduce Blitz's relationship with his family and Fizzaroli, which carries on from the last episode. However, the issue is that these ideas are never explored any further, and for some reason it feels like we are supposed to know everything as an audience. That's why HELLUVA BOSS theories are always forming, because of the lack of clarification or information on these characters. I understand why Vivzy said that this episode carries over from the finale. This means that the finale episode of season 1, which was scrapped, was most likely scenes showing what Luna was doing at Stryker's party. I personally think this episode was worth the wait. It's unfortunate that it was delayed so long, but setbacks are always inevitable, and Vivzy has done a wonderful job at keeping us hyped with news and sneak peeks. One lore point that is a bit confusing is surrounding Paimon. He says that he has many kids during one scene, and he can't remember which one Stolas is, so he asks his butler. This contradicts what's said later, where Stella and Stolas are married purely to produce an heir. Why is having a precautionary marriage so important to the family if the main guy has so many kids that he can't remember the names of him? Arranging marriages would seem like a bit of a waste of time. This episode also clearly paints Stella as a villain. It provides context as to why Stolas cheated, whereas prior to this episode we assumed Stella was justified to be angry at Stolas. The issue is that in past episodes like Lululand, Octavia is depressed because Stolas broke up the family. This doesn't make much sense now, since there's more clarification on why Stolas cheated. If Stolas had talked to Octavia and explained how abusive Stella was, perhaps she would understand why Stolas is divorcing her. I hope we get more clarification on this in the future. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Season 2 Episode 1 of Helluva Boss. As for a ranking, I'm going to place it in A tier. The episode prior had the right balance of comedy and emotional parts. This episode instead focuses on the lore and emotional settings behind the relationships of the characters. This episode is very strong, but these lore implications I mentioned earlier push it down a little into the A tier for me. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks for watching.